It's been a while since I've done a live video on YouTube. There's so many platforms now. X, which I do Xspace is on, where I'll pull it up, do an audio chat. And people, up to 12 people can come on and audio chat. And I'll call people up and they'll raise their hand and they come on and say hello and stuff. And we talk about deep shit. It's pretty awesome. And then there's what other networks? Obviously, I go live on YouTube with Timcast IRL. Hey, man. Hey, Zilla. I'm going to talk for a little while, and maybe if you guys want to chat or leave, I think you can even super chat. I think that's all set up now on this account. And then I'll come back and maybe answer some things and let your comments kind of guide me into other areas of conversation or ideas and things I can talk about. But it's scary to stream. I don't know if you've ever done it. You should if you haven't. It's wild, 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 wild. But once you get rolling, it's no longer scary. It's like skiing, you know. Once you're going down that hill, you kind of get used to the crazy momentum. You almost start to enjoy it. You literally start to enjoy it. It's very rewarding and freeing and opening. I've been thinking a lot about God lately. Like I'm not of the religious mindset. I never was. I was always kind of agnostic growing up. I guess this is a good opportunity to explain a little bit of my past and my religious and spiritual journey. I I grew up agnostic for the most part. My mother went to Catholic school, and just I want to make sure everyone can hear me too. Everything, and if there's any technical issues, let me know. It's the first time I've ever do this. I just got a new Gorilla Pod, and got my phone locked into it, speaking through these headphones. So there might be a little bit of fuzz, but I'm on the road, and I'll be improving my techniques as time goes on. My mom went to Catholic school, and from a very young age, she told me like, well, the nuns would smack her fingers with rulers if she if she had dirty fingernails, and she would see other kids get hit and stuff. So she was like, I'm never sending my kids through that. So she didn't put me into like religious, like private Catholic school or anything like that. And I always would ask about religion. My dad was, I think, raised Lutheran, and I asked like what about religion and stuff as a young person. They go, well, every religion has something to it, and I think God is real, but you kind of need to find it on your own. And I remember that from like very young age, and I was just so logical growing up, reliant on logic, because that's how I got all my grades. I was so used to like the school system, and like if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Naturally, I could do that like really fast. And I played a lot of video games where it's like all logic, like video games are all logic systems, you know, if left, then character move. And so like everything was logic. And I mean, not everything, but that was the primary motive of my brain function, was logic and logistics. And so when I thought about God, I was like, well, there is no logical path to that. That's just an idea. I see no evidence. So I just put it on the back burner, and I was like, I guess I'll, and they were like, that's okay. My parents would say, that's okay. If you don't believe in it, it's okay. Then, and I was like, well, does that mean I'm an atheist? And I went through that, and they were, no, you can be agnostic. And that was thrilling to me, to say, I don't know. I could just admit that I don't know. I don't know if there's a God or not. It was like freeing, you know, and almost empowering when I would tell people. They'd be like, well, I believe that, or I don't believe it. I was like, well, I don't know. And I think, and then people would be like, yeah, that's cool. I don't know either. You know, other people could kind of relate. Like, if you don't know, you don't know. Anyway, I spent the first 28 years of my life, 35 years of my life in that kind of state of mind. I don't know. There's no way to know. And then I saw through radio telescopes the cosmic microwave background radiation, which you should look up right now if you've never seen it before. It's CMBR. Cosmic microwave background radiation. And it's this radiation left over from the Big Bang. And it looks like a web, like a cobweb or something of radiation in the universe. And it's flowing through planetoids. It's like arcing through star systems, and like you see it like transjuncting through these like celestial density points. And I was like, wow, that looks like a bunch of neurons in a brain. And I've always been deeply, since I was in my mid-20s, deeply into like just spirituality in general, and understanding duality of nature and fractalization of nature, as above, so below. That's like an old state of concept, as above, so below. And I was like, well, that looks like a fractal, like the brain, the neural pathways in the brain is a fractal of the cosmic microwave background radiation. And that was like, The evidence was so damning, which is a funny turn of phrase. You were talking about God, but it was so apparent that something is there that I started to accept that maybe there is a God. Maybe there is like an overlord or like an overarching structure to the nature of reality that I don't understand and that maybe I'll never understand. And I had to kind of find peace with that, that just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's not there. And it's not like I can prove it to you scientifically. I still can't. Not yet, I don't think. I'm constantly looking for the answers. And if you find scientific data to back up the sentience of the background radiation, I'm always into it. Like I look at plasma clouds and the way they move. At the center of the plasma clouds, there's plasmon. And these plasmon, these surface plasmon, which is also something you should look up, surface plasmon, M-O-N, they interact with light, photons. Photons will bounce off of the center of plasma clouds, and then the plasma clouds will react. And like, it looks like information is being transferred from light to matter in that way, from a photon to plasma. And then I started to realize that there's some semblance of what you could consider sentience in plasma. Sorry, I was just looking at making sure that everything's okay technically. That there's some sentience in plasma, that it doesn't move like a cloud in the wind. It's like kind of almost like is like an amoeba. And I'm like, yeah, there's some data, there's some information there. I don't think that it's alive or living or even intelligent. I think intelligence is more of an animalistic thing, but sentient. That there's some sort of like magnetic momentum or fluctuation going on, and why I don't know, but it certainly seems like something is moving something around or being moved around at will. And so I've started to surrender myself to the idea that maybe there's a God. And then my subconscious, I cleared that out in my mid 20s too. I started making YouTube videos pretty early on in 2006 and telling people telling people my past. I had these distractive thoughts that would come in, like trauma that I'd experienced as a kid or things I'd done to people or said to people that would come into my mind every once in a while. So I decided, like, let's confess. I didn't even think that at the time. I wasn't like, I'm going to do confession, but I just started telling people because it felt right. It felt like I was getting something out, even though it was humiliating to be like, well, I did this bad thing. And people would be, that is fucking horrible what you did. I'm like, yeah, I know. And, but then it would stop popping into my brain. I would no longer be distracted by the past. It was like I cleansed it. And then I understand now the relativity between that and confession in church and why it's so valuable to get things off your chest. Let someone know. And it's not just if you say it out loud in your room. It's like when you're letting other humans know, there's kind of like they're holding you to standard after that. Like you can no longer like pretend like you didn't once other people know you did. And so it's like it's out there, it's gone, it's part of the. And so I did that in my mid 20s, and I confessed all these things, and then my mind became very clear, and I was like started thinking words instead of saying them. I could do that. I could be like, okay, well now I have no thoughts unless I want to. And this isn't like every day all the time. I think you can maybe be able to perfect or get very close to perfection with this way of being. But I gained an ability to kind of control my thoughts, and instead of say words like hello, how are you, I would think them. Good to see you. And it was like I'm communicating with body language, or like could even be ephaptic coupling, which I didn't know at the time existed, but this is something you should also pull up right now. Ephaptic coupling. It's EPHAPTIC. Ephaptic coupling. And it's the idea that neurons in the brain, they communicate through chemicals normally, but they can also communicate with ephaptic coupling, which is where they communicate with other neurons that are inside of a local magnetic field. So like one neuron will be sending information into the field, which will then be transmitting to some other neuron in a different area of the brain. And then that makes me think, or other people's brains. And so we've got this, when I'm thinking words, maybe I'm actually using ephaptic coupling to communicate concepts. And it's not like you're going to be able to know what I'm thinking necessarily, but I think you can sense that style of thought, that something about that, the intention maybe. So I started doing that. I started thinking words instead of saying them to people, and they were really into it. People would look at me and be like, okay, like if I'm like, you're healthy, very healthy. And then I'd be like, what if I think it 5 times in a row? And I got kind of into numerology, and that was a little psychotic. Like I'd be like, what if I think the word hello? What if I think healthy, but I think it 3 times, then I say it, then I think it on the 5th one. So I'll be like, healthy. Well, that was on the 6th. But anyway, I was experimenting like, what if I say the word on the, what if I think healthy twice and then I say it on the third one and then I think it two more times? What if I say healthy and then I think it four times? It was weird. I was going through a real weird experimental phase psychologically. I was just lonely or not lonely also. It was like I was just changing as a person. I played with that for a while. And then at some point in my 30s, 10 years later or so, well, what was happening was there was a girl I knew that I was very close to that I would communicate to in my head. It was just I would imagine her and I would think words to her and she would give me wisdom back. I would hear her voice. I would get what I thought it was, I guess, what my subconscious believed she would say back to me. And I felt like that was my spirit guide. And unfortunately, I put a lot of pressure on that woman. That was a big mistake that I made because it was just, there's a sense of fantasy to it. And the poor woman, had no control over me being like, oh, you're my muse, all this crap. But I did that, and she was like my Jesus. A lot of people say they prayed to Jesus. Whatever happened, like time went by, and I started just thinking these words to God. This was like more recent. This is like 3 or 4 years later. I've focused concepts and hello, please help me. God, please give me strength. You're healthy. Complimenting God is very effective. If you tell God it's good, you're very healthy. It appreciates it. There is a sense of appreciation of thank you I would get back. And I realized now, I think that's prayer. And that was what I was doing the whole time was I was praying. I gained control of my thoughts and I learned how to clearly pray. And now when I pray, I'm like, well, I can pray to someone. I can pray to that girl still if I wanted to, or I can pray to Jesus, which I did. I prayed to Muhammad. The thing is, if you don't know the person or the thing, I suppose you could pray to an obelisk as well. If you really wanted to, you could pray to an item. Um, but most of the religious texts say don't do that. Don't pray to a person. Don't pray to a thing. Pray to God. That's like the ancient Judeo concept, and I really get that. So I pray to God. It gives you this like impulsive response. It's like God is like this warping field, this like black hole sucking light into it. It feels like this essence of like just pulling matter. I can sense it like pulsing, kind of, and pulling data towards it, as well as escaping out of it. Probably a black hole at the center of the galaxy or something like that. I don't know. But that's like my God at the moment. And then when I pray to other people or things like Jesus, I prayed to Jesus a few times. I heard Jesus's voice. I was like, Jesus, what should I do? And he was like, go surfing. And it was like this cool dude. It was like this beachnik, like the dude with the beard, just like cool guy, like a friend of mine, I felt like. And I think that's because I have this idea of what I think Jesus is in my mind. And so I get a response from what I think that is. And I also can acknowledge that my beliefs are tainted by my own experience. So just because that's the way I hear it respond to me doesn't mean that's like the ultimate way it is. And it's almost like when you pray to anything other than God, it's impure. This is what I've kind of started to believe, is that if you're praying to an item or a person, it's you're deriving it, or you're warping it or bending it or something to get it the way you want it. But like maybe there is literally something to it though, and you're supposed to pray to people and things and things like that. That could be the possibility. It's never the final word, because if you pray to something in one moment and then you pray to it again later, it's going to give you a different response depending on the moment, depending on what you need to hear in that moment. So it's not like it told me that 10 years ago, therefore I that is forever. Like, no. It's here with you, ever present. It will always guide you depending on the moment, as long as you're in communication or contact with it. And I try, for the most part, just to pray to God, just to communicate with God. Back to this numerology thing where I would think like healthy, 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 healthy. I would just think it 4 times. It's kind of like dropping a stone in a pond. If you drop one stone in a pond, that word healthy, it just ripples out. And then you have no thoughts. And you just allow it to imperviate the environment. But if you think healthy 4 times, it's like dropping a stone in a pond, and then as the ripples begin, you're dropping another stone in, and new ripples form that warp and distort the pattern. And now you've got some messy looking thing. So it's like you've got to have a discipline with your thoughts, with your prayers. Like you pray, and then you hold no thought, you hold space for the prayer. That's seemingly a very effective pattern. I've kind of become I desperate, and I don't know if that's really the right term. I've put myself in the position I'm in life for the most part. You know, we're dragged along, but we're also kicking and swimming our way through it. So like I'm on the right side of the river instead of the left side of the river, but the river's going to flow. Maybe we can irrigate and create new rivers. I'm sure we can. I wonder about that. Can we twist fate, or are we bound by it? We can only swim within it. But this sense of like it's not necessarily desperation, but it's like I'm confused and I don't know what else to do to help the world, to help the people. I've to be honest, working 4 to 6 hours a day isn't enough. Working 8 hours a day, and I'm talking about real work, not just sitting at a desk and waiting for the clock to go. I'm talking about really doing things, for like listening for like 3, 5 hours a day to someone, like on a show on IRL or something. I'm listening to the guest, like locked eyes, listening. It requires glucose. It requires energy. Glucose is a type of sugar that you get from a lot of food. I mean, it breaks down into glucose, which is like the basic sugar that you use for energy. And I've read a book on it that was talking about how like people that have a little glucose before doing a task are much better at doing the task, even if it's a simple task or a complex task. People that don't have any glucose beforehand have a harder time concentrating. So it requires a lot of energy to listen. And I'm thinking 3 to 5 hours a day isn't enough. I'm remiss to say that I'm happy with the situation of the globe right now, and I would like to make it better. And I think that maybe spending more time with people, listening to them, and communicating is the way to go. Which is why I've been doing these Twitter spaces, spaces on Xspace, Xspace. Elon, you're gonna love that. Because I get a chance to listen to people, and it requires glucose. It requires a lot of attention, and it is work to listen without a break in the consciousness, in the conversation, with from start to finish. You know, listening to someone for 20 minutes straight requires a lot of focus, calm, clear mind. So maybe like more of my time spent doing it can help more. But this like I'm at a point where it's like I don't know. I find myself turning to God and praying and just staying calm and not letting myself get upset if I can, staying calm, not exposing myself to the horror if I can. But also, I guess I don't want to put my head in the sand. I gotta know. I used to watch bangedup.com, this horrible website where people would die. It would be videos of people dying or getting their legs, arms blown off or whatever. It was just horror. And I was in my head, I was like, well, if it happens, I should know. I don't want these people on Earth to be alone in knowing this horror. I should also be part of it with them. So let's find out. And it was traumatizing. It was pretty rough. So with the stuff, the videos that were coming out on X, a lot of like people getting killed, and I was like, well, I gotta know. And I watched a little bit of it, and it was like, it changed me pretty quick. And I asked people, I did ask the environment what I should do, and they said, you know, don't expose yourself. Let us, there are some people that are supposed to do that, but not everyone's supposed to go through it. We need some people to keep their minds clear and pure, and so that they can rebuild after the trauma. So I understand. I think that maybe that's a good thing for me to do, is to keep my mind clear and focused on building something great, whether or not chaos hits or seizes, you know. And now I'm like, well, maybe what's going on is this is inevitable. Maybe this is all fated. And all I can do is give my best and document it on video or writing or whatever. And that if things were to fall apart sociologically, if really there was another cataclysm, like at the end of the Younger Dryas 12,800 years ago, when the meteors, I guess they're meteors at that point, peppered the North American glacial continent and caused a global catastrophic flood, wiping out North American megafauna and probably all human life on the continent, for most of it, smearing sand up onto the Sahara, just destroying Atlantis, wrecking the global order, and setting things back to what we call the Stone Age. If that something like that were to happen again, whether through natural occurrence, if you even consider humans not connected to that stuff, which I think in a way we are, magnetically and beyond, or, you know, technologically, like a nuclear holocaust. Either way, if something like that were to happen, maybe what I'm doing and what we're doing is documenting a path back to redemption, so that when the pieces are picked up, they'll have a blueprint of some sort. in these videos and ideas, and maybe so I just continue to do my best now and give hope when hope can be given, and stay positive in the face of danger, and that that will do some good in the future. I know that the future and the past aren't real, that there's a present moment that is constant. Things are changing within this moment. The movement, things are really, it's just movement. Like the time is just kind of a human idea to help us coordinate movement so that we can move to the same place at the same moment, that we can orient our location. And it helps time, but realistically things are just in motion. The earth's going around the sun, the earth's spinning, our bodies are changing and they're growing, new bodies are being created, everything's moving in this moment. And so in knowing that there's no real future, it's just this moment, make the moment as documentably awesome as possible. That's why I like solid state hard drives. It's why I like things like putting like glass hard drives in orbit, preserve data. You can store data in DNA, but storing information in orbit, I think, is important, because if the Earth takes another beating, we'll be able to go grab it or find it, or maybe one day a satellite will come falling to Earth, and the humans will be like, oh, and they'll pick it up and be like, and they'll learn language, they'll learn the ancient history through these pieces of data. Maybe that's what we're doing, and that it's less about trying to scream my head off and make everyone stop fighting and come together and love each other. It's less about that and more about providing a blueprint for later, for the future. Or it could be that if I spend 12 hours a day working on this and doing group meditations, that things will soothe. I keep having a vision of Benjamin Netanyahu, I love you, Ben, and the leaders of Hamas and the Iranian president, whoever these people, everyone has a dream one night, and they wake up and they realize who we are, and they go out of their way to peace. So I'm going to meditate right now for a moment. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to visualize that, and then I'm going to have no thoughts for 20 to 30 seconds. I beg you to join me. It's the easiest thing in the world to have no thoughts. That's the funny thing about it. Thoughts take work. So let your mind go. I could feel in that moment the thoughts. I could feel them coming over me like waves, and then it's like you're it's like you're holding a room open for people to stay within it. Like you're keeping your mind clear. You're holding it open, because the ease for the brain to fall into old patterns is notable. I want to read some comments. People have been commenting a lot. I think you could do super chats too. Oh, did somebody do a super chat? That'd be so awesome. I just monetized my channel. Wow, this has been going on for 24 minutes. That is awesome. What is time? Oh, here's something from Easter Sunday. You need to spend more time communicating in the language of music. Isn't that true, man? I I do think of words as a form of music. The tone of my voice, it goes up and it goes down, and it goes up and it goes sideways, and then it comes back to the middle. That's like tone, that's musical in nature. But I also have been banging on the guitar quite a bit and practicing a lot of my songs that I've written: Earthbound, Frequent Measure, Roger, Deep South. What other ones? On Walking, Fly Hard. That's another good one. Another Why. It's a beautiful tune. And South Park did a thing where they were like, you might have seen this video where it was like Israel and Palestine. It shows like the Star of David, and I think it's maybe the crescent or so. It's like two religions, you know, the Judaism and Islam or something. They're like talking on stage, and they're like, and now we figured out, we finally have global peace after all this. It has been figured, and then it like the stage, like the two symbols like slowly change and come together to show the VF, or I'm sorry, it's the VH from Van Halen. And then Van Halen walks out on stage and they start rocking, and it's like, yeah, yeah, world peace. Ah. And it brings everybody together. And Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, man, not to be left behind. Music saved the world. It's something everyone can relate to, music. It's so easy to hear no matter who you are, no matter how old you are. If you're 100, like it can bring you to life. Wouldn't that be amazing if just the rockingest hit songs brought people together for a moment? And that's all you need is the moment. And that moment can be repeated. That's one of the beauties of the moment, especially of recording. Oh, Doll Click, you said I can't do super chat yet. Yeah, one of these days I'll have that turned on. You can subscribe to me on X. That's a nice $3 a month thing. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with my subscriptions on X, but I think what I'm going to do is subscriber only spaces where people can come in and we can all talk. And you know, I've always hated asking for money. I've lived in such a charitable way, but man, if I had like billions, I know how to use it. I think I should trust myself with that kind of responsibility. You can help a lot of people, man. When I was just thinking of like the second coming of Christ in the texts, and I don't like falling into this like ancient text, like, ooh, what if I get to be that? Like they said, like, I think that they're looking for like a king among men, a very wealthy guy will come and become, it's like, dude, I just see Christ within all of us. Like if the goodness of nature is going to reemerge, it's going to happen from a lot of people at once. That seems like the logical path. Of course, religion is not logical. I know, or not religion, but the spirit doesn't necessarily work in ones and zeros. It's kind of a one and a zero at the same time. All right, I'm going to grab another random chat. Eric Larson shouting out, this was dope, but now I want to play my guitar. Yeah, I actually also kind of want to play my guitar now. Liberty Lovin said, Ian, have you read the Hava Mall? No, I have not. I don't even know what it is, but that's cool. Tell me more about it. Super cheese, cryo, super cheese. Oh, Sarah Barra 45, noting that it's Chad, Ian. That is probably because I've been spending a lot of time with Luke and working out. Speak Easter Sunday said, speak the language, Ian. Tim could even jam with you. You know, my dad's name is Tim. Speak the language of music. Yeah, I think the fearlessness of playing a lot of music and being loud, the fearlessness of doing it is like breaking through orbit. Like, well, that's what I found with singing. I was singing and singing and singing, but I would always kind of hold back a little because I knew like if I go too loud, it might not sound good, and I don't want everyone to know. So that's like I couldn't get out of orbit. I couldn't get out of orbit, and then one day, I just let go. Here, it's something like this. Yeah, like that kind of thing. Hopefully that wasn't too loud, but like when you just let it out once, you've broken through, man. And then once you do that, people like it. Like they'll complain if you're not getting out of orbit. And they'll be like, just I can sense the trepidation. But once you just give over to the greatness and you've like allowed yourself to go above and beyond, that's when people want it more. It's wild. It's like you got to break through the fear to get people to support you. It's a wild, almost counterintuitive concept, but I guess that's what they say is like the greats are kind of like they're looked at as fools in the beginning, and then after the fact they're like, oh yeah, they're great. Of course they were great. They were always great. How could anyone have thought that was foolish, kind of thing? Let's see. I got another chat. Oh, there's so many people have chatted, man. This is super cool, dude. If I do super chats and I can make a living on super chats, I'm gonna be the happiest monkey on earth. I'm a snaky snake. I'm a snaky snake. So yeah, some of my coworkers watch stuff on live action. That's probably like banged up live action. It's hard. There are some things humans aren't meant to see. That's that's brutal, man. But I know what you mean. Like whether or not we're meant to see it, it change everything you experience changes you. That's why we protect children. I mean, it's like the primary reason we protect the psychology of children so that they have an opportunity to grow and form themselves in a healthy manner. Oh, let's see here. Zero cool with the super, well, not the super chat. You know what? Your chat is super, man. I don't care if you pay money for it or not. It says at Sarah. It sounds like you're responding to Sarah. Ian needs the reframe that all thought are all lies and that all thought are all lies all the time about everything. That like you think are I mean, you maybe you're zero cool. You're suggesting that just thinking in general is a tainted way of being. Maybe, but I love science. I love piecing things together, and that's why we have lasers. It didn't happen accidentally. It didn't happen from people just sitting there in stillness. You know, there's value to both. There's value to being the crazy thinker. I just knocked my mouse on the ground. Pardon me one moment. There's value to being the crazy thinker, but there's also like just magnificent value to being able to let go of your thoughts and like, you know, acknowledge when you're wrong, because maybe I am wrong. Maybe I need to go a couple years without thinking. Uh Gonzo's twin said, Ian, I need love to talk with you more. But I think what you mean is I would love, or I need to. I get it. I'm a small business who needs coding help. Well, I don't know if I'm in a position to help people with stuff like that right now, Gonzo's twin, but you can certainly join me on X. Subscribe to me on X if you want to jump in and talk to me one day, and then apply to speak when we do these things. In fact, after this conversation, I might actually open up an X chat just to hear people and listen to people for a while since I've been blabbering on for 30 minutes. You know, I kind of think like if you're gonna speak publicly, you should spend 5 times that amount of length listening. There's some sort of algorithm that seems to really balance things out, but it's not a one-to-one. It's like for every emphasis you make on society, you kind of need to let 5 of those return. 5 or 6 maybe. But maybe it's just different in different times and different places. JC 0007 said, Ian, I really feel you're being catapulted through the majority. Whoa, the app just knew that I put my hand near it and the text got solid again. I didn't even need to touch the screen. The text was fading and I got my hand near it and then it came back. That's awesome tech. Ian, I really feel you're being catapulted through the majority of questions. I really feel you're being catapulted through the majority of questions your faith. Your answers, didn't do it that time. Your answers will be quick. You'll be blessed by the truth of the Holy Spirit. Thank you, JC. And maybe that you feel that somehow my being was catapulted through is because I put myself on the internet through internet video and allow myself to be humiliated and humiliate myself with that's humility. You know, it's one of the blessings of faith or God or whatever. And also listened to so many amazing people and let them. I didn't have my guard up like I'm right and you're wrong. So let's find out why you're wrong. It was like, let's hear what you have to say because your perspective is going to change me. And once you hear other people's perspectives on God and pay attention to the science because God is real, it seems very real. And science is catching up to that. So when you put those pieces together, it's like, ooh. Then it's easier to talk. And then the religions that man has made are kind of like different ways of seeing it and finding it. A lot of things are ways of finding and seeing God. Oh, OEM Plus said, gotta energize that frontal lobe, dude. The frontal lobe. This is where the ego resides. The prefrontal cortex. This is when you go into flow state, which is a cool scientific state of being. You're actually quieting your frontal lobe when you're maybe when you're meditating as well. When I have no thoughts, my frontal lobe is quieted. There is no Ian exists in the frontal lobe, my concept of self. So when that's quieted, it's more like a spiritual resonance of being with that which is, and a flow state. It's a thing where like people that are really good at stuff, they get into this flow state and time slows down, things like that. So research flow state if you want to know more about that and the science behind it. Let's see. We'll take another chat. Bree Hawk saying, yo, it's Ian. That is true. Oh, here's one. Sarah Barra 45. You're killing me. You're saying Jesse Lee Peterson stuff. I guess maybe it's time that I meet up with Jesse Lee Peterson if that's the case. And I really, really hope that I'm not literally killing you. That turn of phrases has made me nervous the last 10 or 12 years, but I understand what you mean, Sarah. So thanks. Uh, Man, people are commenting awesome shit. It's almost impossible to keep up with it all. This is part of why I'm drawn to the neural net because if I could somehow hear like 50 voices at once and actually comprehend all 50, it'd make it a lot easier to hear and evolve myself. All right. Revan Varon with the mad wisdom saying maybe you should just do like once a week where you have a live stream where you spend like a half hour or an hour reading chats. I think that would be a good way to interact weekly with viewers. And I think you're right. It's also a good acting exercise to me because I'm trying to say it the way I think you would say it. Not just read it like this, but actually say the way you're thinking it, how you want me to hear it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it's fun. It's a fun acting exercise. And man, lifting other people up is what it is about right now. This technology is the opportunity to like get real famous and then interview people that aren't famous yet that are phenomenal. You see the potential in people and you give them a platform and you launch people's careers and you watch them flourish and just save the world. And you don't even have to be like, I did that. Like, forget about that shit. Just be happy for them. You know, it's we're all part of this together. John ATSF said, I'm so glad you're doing your own show, Ian. I hope you do more shows in the future. Thanks, brother. Thanks, John. Oh yeah, I gotta, can you tell I'm squinting to read these things? I got into sungazing a little bit, which is really spectacular, and I would highly recommend researching it if you're interested in doing that kind of thing. When the sun is low to the horizon, you tilt your face towards it and let it wash over the back of your eye. You don't really focus on the sun because that can burn. If you like tighten the focus, it can burn the retina, but you like unfocusedly let the light wash over the back of your retina and just clean out that gooey stuff in your eyeball. It'll like melt that stuff away. And I spent like 5 hours out one day doing photography with a friend of mine. He was a photographer, and I was holding the bounce card and like bouncing light, the sunlight into the subject's eyes, the person that was getting their photographs taken, to make sure that the light is popping right, because when you want the light right here on the eyeballs to make the pictures look really beautiful. So I'd be constantly like just focusing on the light and putting the light in the right spot. And after about 5 hours of that one day, just pure sunlight, I went inside and I had like 20/20 vision. I was like, what in the fucking, everything's so clear. Like I could see far. And then I sat down on my computer, and within 5 seconds of looking at the computer monitor, I felt my eyes like twist closed. And I was like, oh, and then back to blur. It's these monitors. I've been looking at computer screens since I was 2. Since I was like, we had an Atari 2600 when I was like 2 years old, 1981 or something, 82. We had when I was 3 or something. And then we got the Nintendo, and I think 1984, we got the Nintendo, December of 84 for Christmas. Maybe it might have been 86. It was 84, I think. And then 89, I got the Sega Genesis, and we got the Super Nintendo in like 90, 91 or whatever it was. And then a PlayStation, and a PlayStation 2, blah, 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 blah. And I'm on the computer right now looking at the screen, and I got my Steam games. So this wonderful digital tech is also perhaps twisting my ability to see clearly. But if I ever really desperately need to clear my eyes, I think I know how. Oh, Morningstar shouting out, I have an Atari 2600. I don't play it, but I do enjoy looking at it. That's funny. Do you ever play River Run? Thought that game's pretty cool. Berserk was a big hit at our family's house too. DJ John T said, hi, Ian. Greetings from Sweden. Just wanted to say I love you. Dude, thanks, DJ John. That's cool. How's Sweden going, man? Sweden sounds pretty nice. I bet it's really nice there. Love Rock said, there's no E in that, by the way. It's just L-O-V. Love Rock. Hey, Ian, you should try stargazing. Mother Love Bone made a song about a star named Xana. Xana, amazing. Mother Love Bone, dude. Now that was like right after Green River. That was like pre-Pearl Jam. I think Mother Love Bone was that Eddie Vedder in that band? They made a song about stargazing called Xana. Is that Vedder? Was he in Mother Love Bone?
Or was that just the dudes from Pearl Jam, like Stone Gossard and stuff, before they formed Pearl Jam? I think it was before they formed Pearl Jam. They had Mother Love Bone. I never got into Mother Love Bone much, or Green River, but I think Mother Love Bone did Hunger Strike. I don't mind feeling bread. I don't know if that's too loud. From the mouths of decadence. Great song. Great song. All right. Slick Sith with some biblical knowledge. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him, nothing was made that was made. Well, if you believe it, all those things make sense. But if you question it, then it's kind of like saying the same thing over and over again, just repetition. I wonder about that. I was thinking, like, what are these ancient books, man? Like, did some guy roll into the town and then just burn with his army and like kill a bunch of people, burn all the history books, and be like, I'm God now. Nothing came before me. And they killed anyone with a memory of the past, and then they just reset society and they're like, worship me. And then because like the Bibles have different gods, like God is a different person, has a different personality in the New Testament than it did in the Old Testament. Like one's vengeful and hateful, one's loving and kind. Like then years later, some new guy rolled into town and killed them all, and they were like, now I'm God, worship me. Everyone, all comes from me. Like I can see that crazy psycho ego animal doing that. Not that it is what happened, but if the book has no reference, if I cannot justify where that book came from, who wrote it, and verify it with sources. I mean, I was a journalism major in college for a while. I'm heavily into the journalistic integrity. If there are no references for texts and documents, it is very, very, very hard for me to put any faith in those things. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying, show me the documentation before I can really start to let my stomach believe it. Liberty Lovin said Judaism used to be polytheistic, and someone actually recently on a Twitter space said that it came from before Abraham. They had like religions of there were a lot of gods, and they just found that the greatest of all of those gods was the one God. That was like it was the most powerful of them all. And so then they started to worship the most powerful one. And then over time, the others just kind of faded away, and everyone focused on the most powerful one. That's kind of how Dungeons and Dragons does it to it with AO. I think it's AO is the main god, and then there's all these other gods that resemble like ways of being and things like that. Slick Smith with the follow up. It's the most evidenced ancient document ever. Okay, but you're still that may be true. I don't know. But it's still an ancient document. So like, do these ancient documents even have like real evidence at all? I don't know. I don't know who wrote them. I don't know. I don't know. But I definitely want to. Let's see here. Kate Spainhauer said, I think God was trying to keep human DNA pure by wiping out evil. That's an interesting concept. Man, when you start talking about good and evil, I get very nervous. Not you particularly, but when people start like becoming like, no, we must destroy evil. Really? You want to be the destroyer? Like, is that good to be the destroyer? And then what if someone pisses you off one day? Are they evil? What if someone steals your bread because their family's starving? Are they evil? Must we destroy them too? I don't know. I don't know, but maybe there is like a sorting algorithm where things that aren't of order, a natural goodness, will be wiped out over time. But then I'm also concerned that like the most powerful destructive force kills everything else and then just tells everyone they were the good guys. I don't know. It's a wonderful philosophical conundrum that I think we'll be communicating about for the rest of our lives. It's pretty badass, dude. Rebel Warcry said Elohim was the most powerful god. Now Hubal is challenging Elohim. Yeah, was Elohim the most powerful of the gods that then they began to worship as the one true God? But I've never heard of Hubal. That's cool. Is that Baal, Bhaal as well? Hubal? Uh, who knows? Oh, Carter Banks with the Crossland and the wicked finger symbols. What's happening, brother? You know, Carter Banks is a mad musician, and I mean MADD in the greatest sense, dude. Carter, we were just talking to. Oh, and then Carter followed it up with "Come back." You know I am, dude. I'm coming, and it ain't gonna stop. Jason McLean, the Tao that can be trodden is not enduring and unchanging Tao. The Tao that can be trodden. That's interesting. That's like free will versus fate. If there's an enduring and unchanging Tao, that would be the fated net that we're within, whereas the trodden Tao is that which you can navigate within. I don't know a lot about Taoism, but man, it is that one always really hit home for me because I think what God is it's one and many. It's both. You can see it as a unit or as aspects of a unit. Like you can see two pieces within one. You can see five pieces within one. Like Hinduism is three within one. There's the creator, the destroyer, and the protector, all within one. And they're all valid. They're all interesting, I should say. Interesting ways to conceptualize that which is. I'm going to stop saying that which is. I said it 3 times this show. Oh, Breehawk with an LOL. Raymond. What did I miss, Raymond? Raymond E. Driggers. Ian, you just got through talking about data stored on glass DNA, and then you said you can't believe the Bible. No, I didn't mean that. You can store data in glass, and you can store data in DNA, not glass DNA. Yeah, glass is a really good data storage tool, actually, surprisingly. And DNA, apparently, they're storing data in DNA. You can store so much information in DNA. So these are scientific discoveries. That's why I feel so confident talking about them. And then storing them in orbit would be a nice safe position, or at least a temporarily safe position, I said. All right, guys, I'm going to take a few more comments, and then I think I'm going to bounce over to X, where I'll be starting an Xspace, where you're welcome to join. Come on in. You can request to speak, and then I'll be adding people to speak. I really just want to listen to people for a while, and then probably blurt out these weird kind of these tantrum-like explosive concepts that come into my brain, like basically what I'm doing now. But I really want to hear what people have to say, and hopefully we'll be able to do that on YouTube too someday. I don't think they have the tech yet to bring like 12 people on. I know you can do a video with one other person, which is pretty cool. So like this would be a good interview platform. I also like saying fuck a lot, so as long as the admins don't mind. I mean, I think as long as your intention is good, it kind of doesn't. That's what they say. Oh, you're cursing? I said shit. Am I cursing? No, a curse is when you put bad vibes on someone. You can be like, dude, you are fucking amazing. That's a blessing. But if you say, I don't even want to curse. I was going to say some horrible shit. But like if you tell someone they're failing or they're horrible, like that's a curse. You don't need to use the bad words. Like who's telling you it's bad? What? Come on. Take control of your life. Don't be afraid. Be brave. Michael Robinson, also with the cosmically realistic knowledge. Ian learned to weld. It's super fun hobby. Oh, it's a super fun hobby and very relaxing. Dude, one of my best friends in life is a welder. I think about him a lot. He does like heavy machine work, and he does like pouring like hot steel, and he works in a factory with like heavy metals and like high temperatures and stuff. He used to do glass blowing. Like he's like my best friend from when I was 2 or 1. And he's big into like machining too. And you're right. Talk about like things you can learn is like hands-on stuff that'll keep you alive. And Sheminsky said, wasn't Michael the Archangel a type of destroyer? Not very biblically versed. Michael the Archangel, Sheminsky, I believe that there was a great war, and that Michael led that war for the archangels, and which are like his generals, and then that army fought Lucifer and all of those kings and dukes, the demons from the thing. And this is like from a lot of different texts. It's hard to tell. And then Michael and his army won the war, and then the history was written, and the others were demonized. Basically, the victor writes the history books. This is something I think a lot about, like Lucifer, the light bringer. I'm like, okay, ancient technology, Atlantis, they had battery power. They had the Baghdad battery. They have these clay pots with vinegar or some sort of a wine or something. Then they stick an iron rod in there, and they wrap it with copper wire, and it produces an electrical charge. Very easy to make. And then they link a bunch of them together. So you have all these pots filled with some acidic liquid, and they can power, you know what? You see Egyptian hieroglyphs of like a giant flashlight looking thing. Like they probably had like Zeus could throw lightning. Like he had some sort of electricity. Lucifer, the light bringer, perhaps was like, hey, Michael, we need to give the common man this technology. We have light. We need to share the electricity with them. And Michael's like, no, dude, it's too dangerous. You can't. You know what happened last time they got that technology, because they remember Atlantis. They remember the Great Wars. They remember all the chaos. Like, we need to protect this knowledge, Lucifer. And Lucifer says, no, it belongs to everyone. And Lucifer went rogue. He was like, fuck you, I'm telling him. And he went around all these kings and dukes from I think it's like
King Solomon's thing, the demons. They call them demons now because they're demonized. You know, the whole that concept. And Lucifer went around and was like, look what they've been keeping from you, this technology. And they're all like, what? And they're like, this? And they're like, yeah, should be for everyone. And so they were like, oh shit. And then they went to war. And there was a war over it. And then Michael's army won the war. And they wrote the books. They were like, they were bad. They were bad. Don't ever think about them or talk about them or any of it. Just forget it. They were evil, horrible. The land was made of fire, probably because they burned the shit out of everything. They probably torched the world as they fought. They probably, scorched earth tactics and stuff. But I love thinking outside the box on that stuff. Because when it comes to good and evil, man, both sides are going to tell you the other side's evil. One man's freedom fighters, another man's terrorist, and vice versa. I kind of want to make a movie called Hell on Earth that's about that. I think it could be very, very thought-provoking. All right. Flyer Tuck says, move magnet near coil. Cool concept. John Burt, Exertus should jump on it if we're talking about this for sure. Exertus, that's Andreas Nicholas, always with the deep knowledge. And the final comment of the day, Alex Grant, Ian, American flag 6 times. Well, American flag 6 times, American flag 3 times. Beautiful stuff, you guys. I really appreciate the feedback and the responses. So I'm going to go over to X at Ian Crossland. I'm going to start a space probably within the next 10 minutes. And it's going to be kind of just talk about God, talk about technology. We'll talk about whatever. But people are going to pop on and talk and give their point of view and stuff. So I implore you to join me. And looking forward to hearing your voices and letting your vibration alter the stream of consciousness. And we'll do this again. I'll get the super chat set up so I can make a living. I mean, make a grander living and spread the wealth. I want to make more rich people. Bye, everyone.